Hey everybody, this is Perch. I want to kind of settle up on one discussion point that it feels like a chicken and the egg kind of solution the way people argue it, but it's really not. And it's I was on the Thinking Critical stream. I don't do that very often because, as you know, Wes and I are arch enemies, and mortal villain right there is Wes. It all started with those thumbnails with him with the crazy face on the thumbnail, and then it transitioned into this. His deep love and affection for Arby's, the sin of all food, the original sin of all food, you could say. Anyway, but I was there, despite this, long-standing, deep-seated, and thoroughly personal feud that the two of us have going. But on the show, we were talking about it was a good cover. There's a section in there. It's not that anything was bad. There's a section in there I thought that was really good. We had a couple different perspectives from very different people. But it really felt like we're in good problem solving mode for a little bit around the comics and distribution, what's going on, like how do you turn the corner? Because it's one thing to just bitch endlessly about where things are broken and they're bad and you got to figure in all the rest. And there's another thing to actually say, here are steps that could be taken that would actually improve things. And by the way, improve things for everyone, not just for me and my personal taste, but actually improve for everyone in the mix, actually create a stronger business, create, better pay for creators, all the rest, everybody wins, right? So in this conversation, it quickly got to the chicken and the egg argument, which we resolved in that, but I'm going to do it here too, which is, what do you solve first? Do you solve the distribution or do you solve the content? And my argument, if you've been listening to the show for a long, long time, has been you have to solve distribution first. You have to. Solving the content first doesn't buy you enough time, doesn't get you where you need to be. And the argument is kind of like this. If you have amazing content inside the comic, just the comic, the story is great, the art is great, it's just wonderful, absolutely great there. But it's distributed to a tiny, tiny audience, i.e. the current direct market. It's not really going to matter. You will get higher sales, but they will grow extremely slowly. Because basically the only growth you're going to get is from people who are lapsed comic readers who already know about chops, who are not already buying them because they're collectors or speculators, but people who are basically, think about if you're one of those people who posts, I will never buy another Marvel comic again. Somehow we've got to win your wallet back. How hard is that going to be? As I've said as well, I do think comic book fans are very forgiving, and they do tend, as much as they lay down ultimatums, I'm never going to do this ever again. 20 years as a retailer taught me a lot of people who said they were never, ever, ever, thank you, Chris Jericho, going to buy a comic again, buy comics again. They always come back. And I'm not saying that as flippant. I'm not saying it like, you people aren't serious. It's just, comic fans are forgiving, but it's still slow. If those comics became amazing, you're talking about a 5% growth year over year, maybe. It's going to be tiny. Because people are going to have to slowly make their way back. And the only people that are going to make their way back are people who are there in the first place. And that's already a small audience. Alternatively, if you solve distribution, meaning you get your comics into lots more places, the newsstand, big box stores, etc., and now they've got a lot more places to go, but you don't change anything about the interior of the comics, you're going to see a bigger boost in sales. A much bigger boost. Because you're playing off of volume. Now, as was discussed in the show, and as you may be thinking right now, you're 100% right. If they just start putting comics everywhere, everywhere, thank you, Chris Jericho. If they start putting comics everywhere, but the content, the actual story is ass, then it's going to be a very short trip, because what's going to happen is it will suck a lot of people in. They'll buy their first comic. But if they open it up and it's terrible, they're going to go, okay, well, I'm not coming back to this. But you would get an immediate big bump. Fortunately, I think that the entire argument is kind of meaningless. That's why it's not a chicken and egg argument. You have to solve distribution first. But there's a really easy, obvious, safe, smart way to solve distribution and get the quality of the comics to a, I'm going to say a word here that, again, some of you may object to, but a nice marginalized, harmonious, homogenized, whatever you want to call it. But basically a fit for the masses approach. And what do I mean by that? Well, I mean that Watchmen certainly got popular. It grew it over the years. It got more and more popular. They did the movie off of it and everything else. But all the same, if you were trying to attract a 14-year-old into comics, would you hand them Watchmen? Probably not. That would not be a good go-to. What would be a good go-to? Well, we've seen it. A lot of the classic runs that John Byrne did are as accessible as they get. It's one reason why I often refer to him in the show, and it's one reason why, over time I forgave him for no showing some offense. But Byrne's stuff, both the art is easy as hell to get into. It's straightforward. Weirdly, and I have never thought this before, and I still don't. I don't see it through my eyes this way. But I was talking to some people who are really into manga, and they say, "Oh, John Byrne's style is very familiar to manga fans." And I mean, the thing I guess I get from that is John Byrne's art is very clean. It tends to be very clean. That's the best word for it. And a lot of manga art is very sharp and clean. So I guess that's what we're doing. But anyway, you've got tons of John Byrne work in both companies, DC and Marvel, obviously accessible. You've got, you have the stuff that they've done the movies off of. You've got stories that have a dead simple pitch. Batman, Joker terrorizing Gotham, has one up on Batman. Batman's gonna have to save it. In many ways, the Joker War that Tinian did recently, packaged up, would work very well. We use the word normies, but I'm just calling it the mass audience that doesn't buy comics and are being exposed to them for the first time. Because that mass audience is typically coming into comics having watched some of the movies, which means if they watch the movie and they're like, yeah, I want more of this, I want to see more, it means that they probably like the MCU humor, at least to some extent. It means they like the pacing of the movies, so all you have to do is line them up with the comics. Well, again, easy as can be, you've got 60 years. And this was the point that was made on the stream the other day. You have 60 years of content to pull from. 60. So no, when we talk about, well, you have to improve the content, not right away you don't. You still should. Don't get me wrong, but that's an answer to a different problem. The answer to the distribution problem is simply put out nice packaged versions. And if you work for Marvel and DC, it's the easiest thing in the entire world to do. And it goes like this. Walk into your Walmart or Target. Go to the book aisle. Look at the book aisle and look at what's being done there. Just look. Use your own 2 eyes and your own 2 feet. It will take you no time at all. Super easy. I'm not going to do it. Super easy to do. Okay? That's it. Just walk in there, look. When you look, you will find the same consistent story across hundreds and thousands of big box stores across the country, which is shelves about 12 inches apart, height, Funkabon version stacked up there, One Piece, Chainsaw Man, One Punch Man, My Hero Academia stacked in there. Say, all right, that's the winning format. Too bad we didn't come up with it, but you know what? We can steal it, which, as we know, Marvel and DC are not above doing. They do it all the time. So you can't say that like, well, they're too arrogant to take somebody else's idea. Bullshit. They take people's ideas constantly. So go in there, see it, go, all right, there it goes. Now, I have this huge brand, Marvel, that we know Target and Walmart want because their toys and shirts and all that other shit's everywhere. So we know they like it. Cool. Now all I have to do is say, we're going to offer it to you 2 volumes a month forever. And there's going to be, 160 pages or so of story. And we're going to go into our 60-year back catalog, and we're just going to throw the comics in there. John Byrne, She-Hulk? Sure. Put it in there. Why not? Chris Claremont's X-Men? Yep. Put it in there. The Masters of Evil storyline from the 80s Adventure? Put it in there. Captain... Oh, no! And this is something I hear from people at Marvel. Oh no, Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau doesn't look like the version of Monica Rambeau they were used to in the movies. Yeah, they'll figure it out. They'll be okay. They'll figure it out. Look, you just did Wakanda Forever. You changed the entire look and gender of Black Panther. You don't think readers are going to be like, oh my God, I cannot possibly handle Captain Marvel in a different uniform. I don't, it's too hard for me. And what says that there's a phone booth? I don't know what that is. Come on. No, they're going to be fine. Characters are flying around Galactus's ship. They'll be able to, the readers will be able to handle a phone booth. It'll be okay. Anyway, you got 60 years worth of that stuff. So this is just going to bring people into the shops and bring people loyal to your brand. Then you catch them with back issues and you catch them with some of your new issues. Now, about this time, you do need to start fixing some of the content because people who are getting hooked on comics from those epic stories are not going to want to come in to have a decompressed, subvert your expectations comic of Kamala Khan eating lunch and talking about what it means to be a Muslim. That's not going to be terribly interesting to them. But fortunately, you've got G. Willow Wilson's run. And if you look at the entirety of that run, you can easily, barely an inconvenience, pick out, I did it anyway, 10 issues that are relatively, have some good action. They're in there. Put it in there, and out it goes. You'll be fine. Can totally be done. So this isn't a chicken and the egg problem. You got to fix the distribution. And the good news is it's super easy to fix the distribution. You have the content, you have the material, you don't have to pay. I mean, hell, it's a great deal because your royalties are so stingy and shitty to a lot of the creators, you don't even have to pay much to them to get it out there. Go get those books in place, get people coming into the comic stores, work on getting your, your content, your quality up to par, and you'll be cool. But it does start with distribution. It does. But fortunately, again, very easy to control. Anyway, let me know what you're thinking, and thanks for listening.